Good morning, girls. So in this masterclass, we are going to be going through the food diary approach, dropping body fat without counting calories. Now, I know a lot of us have been doing the food log approach, and for some people, it just doesn't suit to track calories for a numerous amount of reasons. However, it is important when we do the food diary approach that we do it properly and that we have a better understanding of why we are actually doing it as well, okay? So running through it, first thing is first is why do we do the food diary approach, right? This obviously keeps us aware of our meals, keeps us aware of our nutritional habits, keeps us accountable, but also gives us a much greater insight into our food and how to actually improve our nutrition as well. Whether it is a case of wanting to drop body fat or whether it is a case of actually wanting to get a better understanding of what our nutrition is like currently and how we can actually make it better, have a much stronger balance in it, and make sure that we are getting enough nutrients and food in for our goals and also for us to perform better as well, okay? So with that, this is the typical food diary log that we use. Obviously, it starts on whatever day your check-in starts and it runs through. And we have our 3 meals and we have our 2 snacks as well, okay? The main aim here is 3 balanced meals, okay? The food rules and food principles still apply. And we're looking for 2 snacks, ideally high in fiber, high in protein. Again, we can still have the 80-20, 80% whole nutritious foods, 20% of the foods that we enjoy. But for the balance, we're really looking for proper strong balance in our meals and lots of protein and lots of fruit and fiber and veggies as well. So the food principles still apply, okay? We're looking firstly for our protein source in every single meal. We start with our protein source. What is it? Work from there. Our micronutrients as well is super, super important because we are not tracking calories. We need to make sure that we are feeling full from food, that we're feeling great in it, but we need to make sure that we're getting enough of our micronutrients in to make sure that we're not actually in a maintenance or a surplus of calories, okay? Then we go into our carb source and then we go into our fat source. So as you can see here, this is a typical plate. And I know we've gone through this so many times, and like I'd say in school we've been taught it as well, and it does still apply. When you are looking at a plate, you are looking at half of that plate should be micronutrients, fruits, veggies, as much colour as you can. A quarter of your plate is your protein. And then the other quarter of your plate is your carbs and healthy fats as well, okay? So typically what I would look at in terms of this one here is these are more so our healthy fats. Now we don't actually have a quarter typically. What we will be looking at here is a quarter of our carbohydrates, and our fat source would be something small in the middle, like a little bit of butter, some avocado, hummus, oils, that kind of thing. We keep our fat intake quite small, and I will go through that in a few minutes also. In this food portion control, right, what is really, really handy here is firstly having the education and awareness of food, of like what we need, the 4 principles: protein, micronutrients, carbs and fats. But also the portion control is your hand is proportional to your body, which is a really, really handy way of actually making more balance in our nutrition and portion control in our foods, right? So when we look at it, your fats should only be the size of your thumb, which is only to here, okay? So that's like that bit of butter, it is that bit of peanut butter, it is that much oil, it is that much egg, is in terms of egg yolk. That is mainly our fat sources, right? Our nuts or seeds, that quantity is perfect. When we're looking at our carbs, we're looking at a cupped hand. So your pasta, your rice. Typically what I look at with pasta and rice is like around 60 grams raw weight. 60 to 80 grams raw weight is what your pastas and rices should be. And I typically find that even if you're not tracking and weighing your food, I do find it quite helpful to weigh out your pasta and weigh out your rice, because it is easy to overeat on those because they taste so good, right? So that's just the handy way of knowing where your intake should be. Your protein should be at the palm of your hand, or even I would go to the extent of your full hand, because protein you cannot get enough of, especially if you are looking at trying to be in a deficit, drop body fat. High protein intake will help you feel fuller for longer and easier to actually be in a deficit. And then our veg is our fist or even half our plate, which is really, really important as well, okay? So when we look at those, these are also the intakes and the sources that you get these from: our fats, our protein, our carbohydrates and our veggies. And then going through into our food log. This is what we want when we are doing a food log approach. We want to be descriptive. We're not going to say grams, but we're going to give detail. Notice here how I say 2 poached eggs, 2 brown bread, a scrape of butter, that's a scrap, a scrape of butter. We don't need to weigh these things out, but we do need to be intentional with how we write these things up. If I just said eggs, bread, fruit, how is me as the coach on the other side going to understand how much is in that? So in this, you can see poached eggs is our protein, Brown bread is our carb source, and then we have our fruits as well for our micronutrients to bulk that meal up a little bit further. We also have our fats in our butter, so that is a full balanced meal, okay? Our snacks here, we have Greek yogurt, we have 2 squares of dark chocolate and mixed berries. So again, we have our protein, dark chocolate is our fats, and then our micronutrients in our berries. So see the way it's so descriptive here that we can actually see. Our goal here is balance in all of our meals as much as possible. Always starting with your protein source, and that's going to make a massive difference. You can see here in the evening I still have my 20%, I still have my soul foods, a mini bar of chocolate and a cup of tea with whole milk here, just explaining what I actually am having. Again here, sprinkle of cheese. So it's being more descriptive with it. What we do with the food diary approach as well is we're going to send over photos. So every second day, send photos of your meals. So this means then we can give you more support on your portion control, nutrient awareness, and also give feedback and suggestions on it as well. A detailed log is all well and good, but actually to be able to see it visually from a coach perspective to actually help and give more support is super important. So every second day, send over photos of all your meals. Typically we'll probably have the same things majority of the days anyways, but it's important that we actually do get that visual look at it as well. So you can send that over on WhatsApp as well. So when it comes down to food diary and actually fat loss, right, naturally we know our body wants to stay the same. It doesn't want to gain weight. It doesn't really want to lose weight. It won't naturally it'd be in favor of actually remaining the same, because putting our body into a calorie deficit puts stress on the body, and our body doesn't want that. Our body wants to remain the same. So if we were to intuitively eat, listen to our body fully, we would keep eating until we're full, right? And with that, when we are in a fat loss phase, when we are in a calorie deficit, it doesn't actually match up. So what's really important here is understanding, how do we actually lose body fat while food logging? Because if we were to just listen to our hunger cues all the time and write all that up, we probably won't drop body fat, okay? So what's really important here is to look at the hunger scales when it comes to fat loss, right? A lot of people will eat until they're at a 9 or a 10, right? If our goal is fat loss, we actually are going to be between a 5 and a 7 here, satisfied, right? We're not going to be full, we're not going to be very full, because that's us actually overeating. And when you are hungry, we want to be around a 3 and a 2, not a 4, okay? So it is a case of actually listening to this, especially when you are in a fat loss phase. Now, if you are doing a food log approach and you're actually just more intuitively eating, not looking to drop body fat, you would be averaging between obviously a 2 and you would go up to an 8. There's a much bigger margin here, but for fat loss we are actually looking at being in a calorie deficit, not eating as little as possible, but actually tuning into our hunger that little bit more. And I have a lot of tips and tricks on how we can actually manage that in the next couple of slides. The top tips in terms of food log approach plus dropping body fat is slow down your meals. If you are eating your meal within 5 minutes, you're actually not giving your body a chance to realize that you're actually full. You will end up actually overeating, and you will be up here on the scales before you even realize that you've had the food eaten. So slow down your meals. Use smaller utensils, baby spoons, smaller forks if you have them, smaller bowls and plates for portion control makes it so much easier as well. Check in with yourself during your meals. Remove the distractions, phones, TVs, everything. Remove it and focus on your meal. Put down your knife and fork from time to time. Check in with yourself. Ask yourself. Give yourself like 3 to 5 minutes. How am I feeling? Am I still hungry? And then go from there, okay? Adding more fiber and veggies into your meals for fullness is really going to help us as well to actually be full and satiated from our meals. When it comes to the method of eating as well, is focusing on the most filling nutrients first. This means our protein sources and our veggies, which is really important. If we start on the carb source in our meal, we will more than likely eat the full carb source. For example, this spaghetti bolognese. If we were to start on the spaghetti and eat that and then continue on into the mince and then continue on into the veggies, we'll start to feel full when we eat the protein and the veggies. Whereas if we start our meals with a little bit more fiber, a little bit more protein, and balance out throughout the meal, we will actually stop when we are full, and we will actually be full a lot quicker than if we just ate the carbs. Now, there is nothing wrong with carbs. We love carbs. Carbs are important for energy, important for like overall strength, performance, but they are super easy to overeat. And this is why we need to look at ensuring that we do have a protein source for each meal, that we do have lots of micronutrients in our meal, because they're going to be the ones that fill us up, okay? So simple swaps that you can do to ensure that, you know, you're saving a couple of calories without us actually tracking calories while trying to drop body fat in a food diary, food log approach. is making simple swaps like full fat milk into low fat milk or protein milk, okay? Our bagels into bagel thins. Maybe we go into the Slimsters, things like that. Our block cheese, like our block cheddar cheese, buying the sliced cheddar cheese instead, because they're actually a thinner slice and they're actually going to be much better in terms of actual portion. If you cut a block of cheese yourself, you're probably eating like 3 slices of the normal sliced block cheese. So those can make a big difference. Our fizzy drinks into our diet drinks are zeros. Our sauces, keep an eye on those. Portion control, but also there is some other lower calorie sauces as well that you can use. Now, I know I say here like low full fat to low fat. We still want healthy fats in the diet, okay? So making sure we still are including our healthy fats, but a small portion of it. So for the likes of your dark chocolate, your nuts and your seeds, that's where you'll get your majority of your healthy fats from. Removing the share bags out of the house and getting multi-packs because they are portion controlled as well. If you buy a share bag, guess what? You're going to eat the whole thing. We're all going to do that. So just make sure you actually buy multi-packs. You can have your little bar of chocolate, you can have your little packet of crisps, and you can actually still make progress, okay, on your fat loss goals. So run through is with the food diet and fat loss, you can drop body fat with a food log approach, but it does mean having more awareness of food choices, making small swaps and tuning into your body and your hunger as well as really filling up the food log in detail and sending photos across each week as well. Naturally, in a fat loss phase, whether you are tracking calories or not, there will be a little bit of hunger from time to time. That is normal. We are actually looking to drop body fat. We are looking to eat that little bit less. So our body is going to feel that, and that is okay. All right. So I just wanted to go through that because I know for a lot of us, we have started into the kind of food diary approach. And I think this is really important to have this understanding that if we do come out of tracking calories for a while, we are going to food log approach, we still have the basic rules still apply with your nutrition. A detailed log, sending photos over every second day is going to make a big difference for us as well. And understanding that there is small swaps we can do for our nutrition to make sure that we are actually dropping that little bit of body fat while in a fat loss phase without having to track the calories, okay? So that is everything. I hope that makes sense. Any questions on any of that, just shout and I will chat to you soon. Have a good one.